Willie just looked at me and said, it's okay to just rest and just relax. And it felt so good to let him just take care of me. It felt so good. Why did I need somebody to tell me to rest? Why did I need that validation? Why did I need that permission? Ever feel like you're in a constant competition between your career and your husband's patience? Your kids think you work too hard, but hey, you're doing it all for them, right? The struggle is real, and I've been there too. Moments of feeling like a crappy mom and wife because once again, your kids had breakfast on their way to school, and you've got more important things on your plate than cooking and cleaning. Hey there, working moms who are juggling a million things and still wondering if you're doing it right. I'm Veronica Cisneros, and I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, a mama of 3, and married for 24 years. Welcome to the Empowered and Unapologetic podcast, where we dive deep into the messy, chaotic, and sometimes hilarious world of mastering motherhood, marriage, and business. I get it. Balancing it all was never the goal, but here we are, trying anyway. I'm here to share my journey and guide you through yours. No more apologies for being driven, and definitely no compromises on your dreams. Together, we'll navigate the challenges of being a powerhouse in both business and family life. Join me as we tackle the uncomfortable conversations from being the breadwinner to changing the rules of what a marriage looks like. Let's figure out how to parent in a working parent household without the constant arguments or guilt. I'm Veronica Cisneros, and this is Empowered and Unapologetic, where we embrace the chaos, challenge the norms, and strive to live life on our own terms. Get ready for some real talk, actionable tips, and a few laughs along the way. Have you ever been on this roll, right? You're working, you're getting things done, music is playing, you are totally in it, glued into it. And then all of a sudden, your husband walks in and asks you, where's the milk? Do we not have milk? Where is it? Literally interrupts your entire focus, your work, to ask you for milk. That's exactly what happened to one of my really, really good friends. She is a high-level executive, like badass, and she works from home. She's getting her work done, and her work is interrupted because her husband can't find the milk. And so she shared this with me, and I thought about it. I, of course, immediately sent a voice text back saying, sharing a time when that has happened to me. And it's as if we are the default parents. Like, wait a minute. How the hell am I a default parent if my job is just as important as yours? Or more important? Just saying. Okay, maybe not more important. I'll be nice. Veronica, be nice. I'm going to be nice. How is it that their work, our husband's work, takes priority, or whatever their needs are, takes priority over our own? How did we become the default parent? I think about times with Willie and I. Our girls right now are in track, in cheer, they're part of this philanthropy program. They're very, very involved, right? Extremely, extremely involved. And when it comes time to line up our schedules, it's like mission impossible, like legit mission impossible. It's not happening. I mean, with prayer, maybe with prayer and a whole bunch of luck, maybe, and there are times when Willie and I there have been times where Willie and I have gone into arguments of, well, wait a minute, I can't reschedule another patient of mine, or I can't reschedule a meeting. And, well, why not? You're the boss. Well, why not? You're the owner. Okay, wait a minute. Because there's like 50,000 different schedules to go ahead and line up. And if I move this person, and I not only have to move this person, but I also have to account for travel time, and I also have to account for coming back. So when am I going to get this work done? And we try to keep it from becoming a competition. But I will say there have been times when it's just like, okay, wait a minute. Let's just look at who's meeting or who's whatever, is, I don't want to say more important, but that's the only thing that's coming up. So I'm, fuck it, I'm going to say it. Who's ever is more important. Have you guys ever felt that way? Have you ever felt like, okay, well, shit, my shit's way more important than yours. So like, sorry, you got to take time off. Or, if I take time off, that's the other thing. If I take time off, guess what? I'm not getting paid for that time. I'm not getting paid for that time. You know why? Because I'm the one that's making the money, right? I'm the owner. So if I'm not working, I'm not getting paid. Yes, I'm getting paid in other areas, but it's very, very difficult to take that time off. And I'm not saying it's not difficult for Willie as well. Of course it is. His work is also very, very valuable. But I'm not going to lie. There are times when it becomes this little bit of, I'll say competition. I'm just going to call it out. There's this little bit of competitiveness, in which one is more important. And so I thought about my friend, and I thought about, some of the conversations Willie and I've had, and some of them have been arguments. They weren't conversations. They were definitely arguments, and if I'm experiencing this and one of my best friends is experiencing this, well, then so are you. So are you. And so I decided it's time for me to record a podcast on breaking free, high achieving women, and the default parent trap. So I want you guys to think about these times where you feel like there's so many things placed on your plate. And that's not to say that we can't do them all, right? Because we totally could. And we are capable of it. However, at the end of the day, it ends up biting us in the ass, right? So today we're tackling a topic that many of you might resonate with, the default parent trap. Being a high achiever is no small feat. Balancing careers, goals, and personal aspirations can sometimes lead us into a role we didn't sign up for, the default parent. It's a silent struggle that many high achieving women face. And today we're going to unravel the impact of our mental and emotional well-being. So let's just put it out there. What might you be experiencing if you find yourself in the default parent role? I'm going to give you some examples. You might feel constant pressure to have it all together. You might feel guilt when things inevitably slip, because they do. Oh, they do slip through those cracks. And there might be this relentless feeling of not being able to keep it up. That feeling is so crippling. Does any of that sound familiar? Now I'm going to go into things that I want you to watch out for. One of my friends had asked me, Veronica, what's anxiety and how do we know we're experiencing it? I'm not going to go into crazy detail with that, but I'm going to cover some symptoms. Some symptoms to watch out for include burnout, heightened stress levels, this persistent sense of overwhelm, this inability to just go to sleep and stay asleep without thinking about all of the things you have to do tomorrow or all of the things you have yet to complete. It might be your mind completely flooded with thoughts, with questions. I recently did a talk, and it was with a whole bunch of entrepreneurs, most of them primarily with males. And it was an intro of who I am and what do I do. And a topic I covered was burnout. Every single one that attended that group was able to resonate with the symptoms that I had covered. Inability to stay asleep, inability to turn their mind off, inability to catch their breath sometimes, inability to just be a part of the moment and be intentional in that moment. As high achievers, we're accustomed to conquering challenges. We're badasses. But when parenting becomes a one-woman show, it can take a toll on our mental health. And I'm not going to make this podcast episode a podcast episode on totally dogging on men, because they do show up. 1,000%, they do show up. However, what this podcast episode is really, really laser focused on is, how are you a part of this problem? How are you a part of creating this position for yourself of the default parent? And I want you to think about that, because for some things, it feels forced on us, but without boundaries, without proper communication, we'll go ahead and compromise ourselves to meet the needs of the family. Now let's talk about the impact on motherhood. How does being the default parent affect your relationship with your kids? Well, my husband asked, we were all sitting down, and my husband asked, what was his question? He asked, if you could take on the role of me or your mom, whose role would you take on? And she was laying down, and she was, of course, on her phone. But she was laying down, and she says, I would take on mom's. And then he followed up with a question. I'm probably messing this up. Sorry, Willie. I'm probably messing this up. But he then followed with a question somewhere along the lines of, well, what would you do the minute you were able to be your mom? And I'm like listening. He and I are both listening to hear like what she might come up with. And she said, I would take a day off. Mom works a lot, and she doesn't take days off. Holy shit, that hit me so hard. How many of you have heard your kids say that you work too much? As I'm raising my hand up. Yeah, me too. Being the default parent, feeling as if we're the default parent, right? It could lead to this lack of presence, missed opportunities for bonding, and this feeling of inadequacy as a mother. I'm going to repeat that last line. Feeling of inadequacy as a mother. Our kids deserve the best version of us. And when we're spread too thin, everyone loses. The reality is, so do we. So do we. Don't get me wrong. I'm all about hustle. I am. I mean, I know people talk about like hustle culture and whatever. I am all about getting shit done. I'm 1,000% about getting shit done. Why? Because it's in my blood. And okay, maybe somebody, would challenge that and say that's a lie. However, this is what I've been conditioned to believe. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not here to get like any praise from you guys, but for me at least, this is what I've been conditioned to believe. This is how shit needs to go. This is how shit needs to happen. But the reality is, when I'm taking all of these roles on, when I am looked at as the default parent, when I take ownership of that without having a proper conversation, without challenging that role, shit hits the fan. And it impacts my kids. It impacts my ability to be present with my kids. Instead, and I'm going to say this because I'm going to say the shit that you don't say. Instead, there are times where I look at my child as a task. Is that jacked up to say? Absolutely. Absolutely. But it's another task. And when I ask my kids if they need help with their homework, especially if I've had a long day, especially if I'm just like, I'm done. Yeah, I want to hear my kids say, no, I'm good. 1,000%. 1,000%. Is there guilt? You bet your ass. But I've pushed myself so far that at the end of the day, what I don't realize is that's the reason why that's the reason why I don't have the energy to go ahead and do the things that I really want to do. I push myself so far. I put so much on my plate that the things that I ultimately want to do, I prevent from happening. My daughter's 17. She'll be graduating. She'll be a senior next year. I've already experienced that with Aaliyah. I don't want to experience it again. But yet here we are with similar routines. And I recognize it, and absolutely, I start to go ahead and create those changes. But I know if I'm doing it, and as a licensed therapist who teaches people these skills, I know if there's this struggle internally, then there's also the struggle out there. Are you a high-achieving woman feeling the weight of success, yet struggling to find balance in your personal and professional life? If your mind is constantly racing with endless to-dos, family demands, and the unspoken competition between career and marriage, you're not alone. It's time to peel back the layers and address the deep-rooted challenges. You've tried it all: vacations, bedtime schedules, restructuring your calendar, and heartfelt conversations with your husband. Despite your best efforts, the struggle persists, leaving you feeling unheard and stuck in a cycle of frustration. I get it. I've been there too. But here's the game changer. Empower X with me, a 4-month invite-only experience crafted exclusively for high-achieving women like you. This meticulously curated group is your sanctuary for support, knowledge sharing, and a community committed to scaling businesses while enriching family life. Picture this: virtual mastermind meetings with a sprinkle of coaching every 3 weeks, lasting 2 hours, where you'll engage in deep dives into your challenges. It's a space for high-impact skill sharing, fostering growth, and unlocking breakthroughs in both your personal and professional life. As if that's not exciting enough, Empower X features an exclusive in-person retreat hosted by me in San Diego. Imagine practical workshops, meaningful connections, and a chance to strengthen our community bonds in a breathtaking beach setting. And the support doesn't stop there. With continuous access to our private messaging channel, you're just a message away from the guidance, advice, and camaraderie you need, including direct interaction with me. Ready to break free from the cycle and embrace a life where success doesn't come at the cost of your well-being. Apply now to Empower X. It's time to prioritize your aspirations, enhance your marriage, and approach motherhood with newfound confidence and support. Your journey to intentional living starts here. Go to veronicacisneros.org/EmpowerX. Again, that's veronicacisneros.org/EmpowerX. I'm so excited to meet you. Another place that I don't want to forget is the impact on our marriages. Arguments can arise from unmet expectations. Resentment may build. And behind closed doors, we may be embarrassed to admit the struggles we're facing. I'm here to tell you, you're not alone. And there's definitely hope. There's definitely hope. Those conversations that you are avoiding, those emotions that are building up for you, feeling as if you're keeping score, paying attention to all of the things you're doing in comparison to all of the things he's not. That's what I mean by impacting your marriage. And it has the ability to take your marriage down. I want to highlight the fact that you are a badass. I want to highlight the fact that you have a very, very strong work ethic. That's a huge key. And you either have it or you don't. That's how I see it. You either have it or you don't. This shit cannot be trained. It can't. That grit, right? That grit, that self-drive, that self-motivation, it can't be taught. It's something from within. And so let's use that for something amazing. And I know it sounds like hokey pokey, like, okay, Veronica, well, what does it mean? Are you going to tell me to redo my schedule? Are you going to tell me to cut back on my meetings? Are you going to tell me to, work less? No, hell no. I'm not going to tell you that. Why? Because there's no way in hell if somebody told me that I would even follow it. I'm not going to do any of that. Instead, I'm going to give you actionable steps that I'm going to draw from the help of Gottman and this mixture of dialectical behavioral therapy. So first things first, why are you doing this? Why are you doing all of this? Don't tell me it's because of your kids. Don't tell me it's because of your marriage. Why are you doing this? And before you answer it, I want you to really, really think about it. Why are you doing this? Why are you running yourself to the ground? What's the goal? What's the goal? I had this conversation with one of my clients recently. He tends to push himself way farther than what's humanly possible. And I'm not mad at him. I admire that work ethic. However, you are pushing yourself to the ground. So essentially, what's the goal? For a long time, I thought my goal was to serve my community, was to serve my kids, to create this legacy, to create a legacy. But thinking about it, I started to realize, wait a minute, what is the goal? The goal is to push ourselves to the ground. Veronica, that's crazy. That's completely ludicrous. No, it's not. I don't want to push myself to the ground. And yet you still do. Those sleepless nights, those racing thoughts, that inability to concentrate and stay intentional. That's the goal. It's not a healthy goal. And yet it's our goal. I had to go to the hospital a couple weeks back. And I can't believe I'm going to share this with you, but whatever. We're friends. Ended up going to the hospital. And I had a really, really bad stomach pain, like so bad. I was crying, like it was just bad. And I have a very, very high level, high pain tolerance. And the first night after my photo shoot, I was like, I'm fine. I'm just going to put a heating pad on it. Willie gave me Pepto-Bismol. He gave me Gas-X. Now you know what it's about. But yeah, he gave me all of those things and it was not letting up, like at all. It was not letting up. And tried to sleep, couldn't sleep, woke up the next morning, couldn't take the pain anymore. I was like, fuck it, let's go to to urgent care because I didn't want to go to emergency room. Go to urgent care. They're like, yep, you need to go to the emergency room. I was like, thank you so much for those beautiful 2 hours that you blessed me with of nothing. Thank you. Thank you so much. Good looking out. Go to the hospital and there I am hooked up to, I think it was Dilaudid. I was trying, you guys know me. My dad's done enough drugs for like everybody in this world. So for me, I'm not into pain medicine. He gave it to me anyway, because I'm telling you, the pain was so bad. I've never experienced pain like that in my entire life. Crippling. They did a CT scan. They did an ultrasound, everything checked out. I was just backed up. But there was a moment where all I could think of is, this is time wasted. This is time wasted. Why is it time wasted, Veronica, you ask? Because I feel like I'm in this constant race after time. I'm constantly trying to chase time. There's not enough hours in the day. There's so many things to do. Then I go back to my client. What essentially is the goal? To run ourselves to the ground. And there's something that happened that I'm sort of ashamed to share with you, but I'm going to share it with you anyway. Willie had said to me, Veronica, just rest. Because you bet your ass while I was in the waiting room, I totally wanted to go ahead and listen to one of my audiobooks, or I wanted to do something. And Willie just looked at me and said, it's okay to just rest and just relax. And it felt so good to let him just take care of me. It felt so good. Why did I need somebody to tell me to rest? Why did I need that validation? Why did I need that permission? Now I want you guys to think about why you're doing it. why you do the things you do, why you even take on the role as a default parent, maybe unintentionally. But I'm still going to challenge you. Why haven't you had that hard conversation or that uncomfortable conversation with your partner? Is it because you don't know how? Is it because you're afraid of where the conversation will go? Is it because of this feeling of lack of control? It's going to be different for everybody. But I want to tell you that change can 1,000% happen. You got to be a part of that change. It starts with you. It 1,000% starts with you. Although communication is extremely important, it is. Developing that friendship between you and your husband is even more important. But in order to get there, you got to figure out the shit that's happening with you. I want you to go ahead and grab a pen and paper right now. And I want you to write down all of the expectations that you place on yourself, all of the responsibilities that you place on yourself. And I want you to rank them by importance. Which ones are you willing to share? Again, which ones are you willing to share? Sure, he's not going to do it right. Sure, you're going to feel like you're going to have to redo it. Done over perfection, ladies. Done over perfection. I really want you to take a look at all the expectations and responsibilities that you put on your plate. And then I want you to ask yourself, is this something that's humanly possible? And if it's not, well, then it might be true. You might be running yourself to the ground. A next area that I definitely want to cover is, why don't you prioritize self-care? You already know it's something that's not selfish. It's something that's very, very necessary. We both know that. But yet, why don't we prioritize it? Why don't we take time for ourselves to recharge, to maintain our mental and emotional well-being? Why don't we involve our partner in the decision-making? Why don't we share the load? Why don't we delegate? Why don't we delegate tasks? When did you forget you were a team? Write that down. When did you forget you were a team? Before we wrap up, I want to introduce you to Empower X. It is a high-achieving, high-level, executive, entrepreneurial membership. This is only for badasses. And of course, it's application only. This isn't just another bullshit moms group. It is a badass mastermind group with a sprinkle of coaching for high-achieving women just like you. We all know what it feels like to take big business risks, to juggle calls and meetings while also getting your kids from school. And we already experienced the highs and lows of work. But now, let's go ahead and start opening up about the highs and lows at home. It's time to break free. It's time to break free from the cycle of complaints and conflict avoidance. It's time to be a part of a community where high-achieving women thrive in both their personal and professional lives. In this community, we will have virtual mastermind meetings every 3 weeks. They will be 2-hour virtual calls. You will be connected with like-minded women, build a network, and foster meaningful relationships. We will be developing monthly action plans to not only improve your marriage, but also your home. You will receive monthly challenges and tasks designed to improve your work-home life balance. Reconnect with your husband, stop the blame game, and inspire healthy communication at home. You will also be invited to yearly retreat invitations. Only members will be invited to our annual retreat designed for relaxation, rejuvenation, and high-impact personal growth. Join me by going to veronicacisneros.org/EmpowerX. Again, that's veronicacisneros.org/EmpowerX. Ladies, I want to go ahead and wrap this up by asking you to remember, breaking free from the default parent trap is not just about improving your life. It's about creating a healthier environment for your kids and strengthening your relationship. You've got this. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Empowered and Unapologetic. Don't forget to share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. And until next time, stay empowered. Raise your hand if you are ready to level up your marriage for 2023. Do you find that you're spending your time together with your husband checked out and in front of the TV? I know you're ready for tangible strategies that actually get you results. Reignite the spark in your marriage, have fun, and grow together. Well, I hope you have your hand raised at this minute because I have something special for you. I'm introducing my brand new 6-question marriage predictor quiz that's gonna give you personalized results to catapult you into the next stage of your marriage journey. That means you'll receive the results to where your marriage can get the best help. If you've got just 1 minute, head to veronicacisneros.org/quiz. Again, that's veronicacisneros.org/quiz, and you could take my brand new quiz, Marriage Predictor. Get your results delivered right to your email address. Again, that's veronicacisneros.org/quiz, veronicacisneros.org/quiz. What's up, ladies? Just want to let you guys know that your ratings and reviews for this podcast are greatly appreciated. If you love this podcast, please go to iTunes right now, write a review, rate the episode, and subscribe. Don't forget to share it with your friends.
I'm Madeline, and I'm the host of the Happiest Sober podcast. I got sober in my 20s after a decade of gray area drinking, and the greatest plot twist of all time was realizing that alcohol, the thing that I thought made my life the most happy and fun and exciting, was actually the exact thing preventing me from living my happiest and best life. My mom is 40 years sober, and she joins me on my podcast very often. I like to call her my part-time co-host, and I also bring you solo episodes where I share my top tips, tricks, and mindset shifts in sobriety, and lots of how-tos for navigating all the things sober, from weddings to parties to holidays to bachelorette parties to trips. I'm also joined by so many guests who come on and share their sober stories, and they're all so inspiring. I'm here to show you that life doesn't end when you quit drinking. In fact, it's very much the opposite. And no matter what your relationship was with alcohol, life can be the absolute happiest when you're sober. New episodes come out every Tuesday. You can listen to Happiest Sober podcast wherever you get your podcasts.